the Washington of today, there are few government agencies more concerned with the present and future welfare of all U.S. citizens than the Department of the Interior. Founded in 1849, 90 years ago, to exploit new lands as frontiers pushed westward, today its program is entirely reversed, for now it is the outstanding conservator of the nation's resources. In all our colorful American life, there is no group around which more romantic legend exists than the Indians. These wards of the government were long treated as a dying race, but recent surveys show the Indian population on the increase, with 350,000 Indians owning more than 5 million acres of land. As administered by the Office of Indian Affairs, federal Indian policy looks to an end of government supervision as the Indian becomes self-sufficient, develops his own society with the freedom of any other American citizen. To ensure Indian self-support, work in ancient Indian arts and crafts is encouraged, surveys made for new markets, and standards of quality maintained. But most important to the Indian's economy is his land, from which his social and political life stems, from which he derives the major part of his livelihood. Vital feature of Indian policy is to consolidate Indian land holdings, to obtain more and better land, to develop such land under permanent conservation programs. And building for the future is the Office of Indian Affairs program of Indian education. For today, almost 90,000 Indian children attend public schools. The land office of dime novel flavor passed with the exciting days of the Old West. But looking back, the history of America's territorial growth is a history of peaceful purchase, courageous exploration. With completion of the Gadsden Purchase in 1853, the original 13 colonies had expanded to an empire of more than 2 billion acres. To control these acres, now called the public domain, the General Land Office was created by Congress in 1812, and during the 19th century scramble for free land, the Land Office was instrumental in opening the West. 700 million acres for homesteads. Homes for tens of millions permanently recorded in more than 6 million patents. 94 million acres for railroads. Lands for railroads, lifelines of industry and commerce linking the Atlantic to the Pacific, Canada to the Gulf. 230 million acres for states, for schools, colleges, roads. 150 million acres for national parks and forests. America's beauty spots left untouched for present and future generations. 60 million acres for Indian lands. Natural surroundings for the American Indian to whom the land is everything. 175 million acres for grazing districts and unappropriated. New ranges for western livestock on the plains of Texas or the hills of Colorado. 350 million vacant acres in Alaska, America's last frontier, a land of uncounted wealth and natural resources. Thus, 1 billion acres have been patented for private use, 1/2 billion allotted for public benefits. And today, with the public domain more valuable than ever before, the General Land Office is conserving rather than disposing. Every patent carefully scrutinized, awarded on merits of proper use and care for the future. Under the Interior's Division of Grazing is maintained strict control of grazing land on the public domain. To this Interior Department division, set up in 1934, were assigned 120 million acres from public lands, divided into 50 districts in 10 western states. Important to the use of these new ranges is marking of truck and stock trails, leading to fresh pastures and watering grounds, to market shipping centers. By conservation of water, prime requisite of grazing lands, soil erosion is checked, thousands of potential wealth-producing acres created. Throughout the West, 20,000 stockmen are cooperating in this broad conservation program, rehabilitating the public domain and promoting the stability of the livestock industry. Boulder Dam is one example of far-reaching conservation effected by the Bureau of Reclamation. Highest in the world, it conserves, regulates, and distributes water from the Colorado River. In the western third of the nation, in all or part of 17 states, drought comes yearly. There is never enough rain in some regions to support human life and enterprise. And to this one-third of the nation, irrigation is an essential for social and economic progress. Maximum development of water resources is the work of the Bureau of Reclamation, and that thirsty but fertile lands can have the water they need. Distant sources are tapped for storage purposes, streams dammed to regulate their flow. Like California's Imperial Valley, some of the richest agricultural areas in the West are absolutely dependent on irrigation. And out of reclaimed deserts have come more than $1 billion in taxable property, homes for more than 900,000 U.S. citizens. Crowning achievement of the Bureau of Reclamation will be construction of Grand Coulee Dam, largest masonry structure ever undertaken by man, irrigating more than 1 million acres, converting the energy of the Columbia River into electric power for tens of thousands of families. Basically important in the general program of conservation and development of natural resources is the work of the Geological Survey. Field staffs yearly travel thousands of adventurous miles in their search for new facts about the land of America. From its surveys, the Geological Survey prints topographic maps, basis for all planning involving physical features of the Earth's surface. As mapping progresses, the Geological Survey looks forward to the day when every U.S. acre is thus charted, greatly increasing knowledge of our natural wealth. This bureau was founded in response to the popular demand for mining safety after the appalling disasters of the 1900s. First step was to win cooperation of miners and operators, set up safety training courses. Today, more than 1 million men have been awarded the Bureau of Mines First Aid Training Certificates. In nearly 2,000 mines throughout the U.S., 100% of the workers have been so trained. More than 200 lives saved annually by Bureau of Mines First Aid graduates. And recent figures show mine fire and explosion disasters constantly decreasing. U.S. mine safety far above that of other countries. For 30 years, the Bureau of Mines has been developing more efficient uses of coal. Constant research aims at high standards of cleanliness and safety, develops byproducts against the day that other fuels may be exhausted. Waste of gas and oil is sometimes spectacular. Federal aid in the enforcement of the Connolly Hot Oil Act is designed to reduce such waste, prohibit shipment of petroleum and byproducts produced in violation of quotas set by state laws. Mainly operating in Texas oil fields, surveys by the Petroleum Conservation Division of the Interior Department maintain current information on petroleum shipments, furnish data for recommendations adjusting state production quotas. Important feature of the division's work is preventing the interstate flow of bootleg oil, a conservation activity backed up by writs and warrants. America's forests, pride of the past and pressing problem of the present. America's forests today extend over areas 3 times the size of Texas. 50 million acres of these forest lands are in the public domain. Their conservation carried on under supervision of the Director of Forests. Each year, forest fires take a toll of millions of dollars, destroying human life, public and private property. Through the Director of Forests, fire prevention control work carried on by various Interior Department bureaus is unified, basic forest management principles applied. Important is the control of logging operations in public forests, where private operators lease timber rights. Here, the Director of Forests sets up plans for sustained yield management, makes sure that these public forests will continue as vital factors of the national wealth. When from childhood through adult life, the people of a nation are learning the value of conservation, this office yearly gathers vital statistics on every phase of school administration. prepares reports pointing the way for new developments, furnishes information on the educational needs of the nation as a whole. From the frozen north to the tropical clime, the Division of Islands and Territories coordinates federal activities in the offshore territories of the United States. Considered best of all Caribbean harbors is that of St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, much today as when discovered by Columbus in 1493. Purchased from Denmark in 1917, the Virgin Islands were long troubled with chronic relief problems. Under a federal program for economic and social rehabilitation, the island's foremost product, sugarcane, is being developed into a self-sustaining industry. Backed up by homesteading programs, expansion of cane acreage, and increasing U.S. tourist trade, the Virgin Islands look to a future guaranteed by wise conservation and use of natural resources. Most recent U.S. acquisitions are the 5 equatorial islands in the Pacific Ocean. Older and neighbor possession is Hawaii and its famous capital, Honolulu, the crossroads melting pot of the Pacific, 2,000 miles from the coast of California, a thriving, self-sustaining island empire whose trade figures annually exceed $250 million. On vast plantations stretching over mountainous plateaus is the island's progressive pineapple industry, furnishing one of America's most popular foods. And equally popular are Hawaii's famous beaches and scenic splendors, goal of many a tourist seeking a Pacific paradise. Historically known as Seward's Folly is the United States' northernmost territory, Alaska, with a coastline indented by Nordic fjords and inlets. Topping the jagged mountainous regions of the interior is Mount McKinley, 20,000 feet high. In other places, glaciers larger than some eastern U.S. states. And in the lowlands, over grassy tundras roam herds of reindeer, as closely associated with the Alaskan scene as weird totem poles, relics of ancient tribal cultures. In the development of its natural resources, Alaska has many times repaid to the United States its original purchase cost of $7 million. The fishing industry alone nets more than $50 million annually. But the lure of gold is still stronger, rich enough in its rewards to be Alaska's #1 industry. Another great but undeveloped resource of Alaska is rich land, greater in acreage than the state of Oregon, new frontiers for 20th century pioneers. Our national parks, treasure lands left inviolate for the citizens of America, Yellowstone, Yosemite, Sequoia, Shenandoah. These are but a few of the national parks enjoyed annually by more than 16 million visitors. Including 20 million acres, national parks are historic and unique areas of the entire American landscape. In the national parks, all Americans find nature at her best. Unequaled are the opportunities for recreation and enjoyment of the out-of-doors. Aim of the National Park Service is to fit all necessary facilities for visitors into nature's pattern, adjust the conflict between complete natural preservation and wise public use. For the founding purpose of the national parks is that they be for the benefit and enjoyment of the people. Invaluable are the national parks as laboratories for conservation study, for here can be seen all the forces of nature at work, testaments of America's great natural wealth. Public use of the national parks is not limited to summery days alone, for in many of them, deep drifting snows create winter wonderlands with many attractions for winter sports fans. Far famed is the park system of the national capital, its historic grounds and memorials visited by 50 million Americans each year. its administration carried out by the National Park Service of the Interior Department. In the Department of the Interior,